Welcome back, Big Blue Nation. Unfortunately, a losing episode of the podcast. Kentucky Wildcats go to Austin, Texas to face on the Texas Longhorns. Come out losers 82-78. Cats feels like week in, week out. Get a top 5 win that you weren't expecting them to win when they were shorthanded. Come back and lose a game that you weren't expecting them to lose. Jacob, I know, watching this game wasn't easy for both of us. We were in different atmospheres. I'm not even going to get into mine. Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I won't be back for who knows how long. The place stinks. Let's just leave it at that. I know you were at a much better place, Turfway, watching some of the game. What were some of your big takeaways of this Cats disappointing loss?
Yeah, obviously a disappointing loss. What's crazy though, I picked Kentucky to lose before the game, and just on paper, I don't think this is a huge loss. Texas is a tournament team on the road, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. The place is rocking, and you're without your starting point guard, your backup point guard, and your emergency point guard and best scorer in Jackson Robinson. So with all that being said, it wasn't a game I picked us to win. I didn't think they would. But then when you're up 5 with 4 minutes to go with the ball, and you just can't even get the ball up the court without committing a turnover, you can't buy a bucket down the stretch, and you really just dribble the game away essentially and completely blow it. You don't rebound on free throws again. A lot of very frustrating things, and it goes from a game where you really felt like you were the better team for 36 minutes of the game and played really well with your limited roster, and then your last 4 minutes you just piss down your leg and you lose the game.
Yeah, it's a great analogy to say it's really what happened. And you would think with this team having so much experience, even the team that we're fielding now, even without Jackson, Lamont, and Kerr, still a lot of experience on this court. The amount of mental mistakes late in the games, even just throughout the basic times of the games, it's really astounding to me that they still have not been fixed. You can't play this team can't play zone for that reason. The amount of times we just give up offensive rebounds on free throws.
Oh my
we
God.
inbound the ball to no one and, seals the fate of the game. The amount of mental mistakes from guys who have played so much college basketball, I really don't understand it. And I don't know if this is something that's being talked about enough inside the coaching staff and inside the locker room. But, like everybody's mentioned, this is Kentucky basketball. There's no moral victories. You go to Texas expecting to win that game, even if you are shorthanded. Texas is known for football. They've never been known for their basketball outside of 1 year with Kevin Durant. We have to stop with the moral victories. This team lost. Yes, they're shorthanded, but you had the lead for 24 minutes of this game. Game you should have won. You played better than Texas. Texas really just had 2 players that were just heaving up shots like Kobe Bryant's final game. Really, really disappointing loss in my eyes, especially you saw how well the team just played minus those guys against Tennessee. You think they'd be able to beat Texas on the road.
Yeah, and I know we're gonna go player by player, and I thought Amari played really, really well, but there's just a mental block in his head on how to box out on a free throw. He acts like there's not another player on the in the gym with him when he's going up for a rebound after a free throw. I talked about it. I think it was after Ohio State, and I was slamming my fists. There's nothing that frustrates me more than giving up a rebound on a free throw. That's inexcusable. It's elementary. That's stuff that absolutely should not happen, let alone in a 2-point game or whatever it was with a minute and a half to go. Put your ass on somebody and grab a rebound, and I'm not saying you win the game, but you definitely have a chance. So obviously extremely frustrating. And then you alluded to it, the turnover where Travis Perry and Kobe Bryant just look at the ball on the inbound. I don't know what. It was just everything that went wrong, that could go wrong, went wrong. There was just everybody was completely falling apart down the stretch. Nobody could dribble. Nobody could catch an inbounds pass, rebound, nothing. Texas, I'll give them credit for the last 5 minutes. They played really, really well. We played extremely poor.
Yeah, that poor might honestly be an understatement. It seems like there literally was nothing that was going right. And to your point on Amari not boxing on rebounds, Ansley did the same thing. There wasn't even just one guy doing it. At some point, are we teaching box outs in practice? Like, is this a thing? Because for a fact Brandon Garrison doesn't box out anybody. Amari will sparingly. Some of the guards occasionally do, but just in general, this team is just not fundamentally sound. And for how old this team is, how many games they've been played, and Pope's got enough games we've played 25 games now. There's enough data to be able to tell we don't box out. I mean, I think anybody who just watches the game, you don't have to be, the next up and coming great basketball mind to be able to tell this team needs to be able to get bodies on each other. And they just refuse to, game in and game out. And it usually costs us in games like this. Game against Texas, happened against Vanderbilt as well. I mean, games like that, there's usually a couple statistics that we can point to each game that cost us losses and cost us wins. And just in the Vandy game, they had more turnovers than assists. In this game, we had more turnovers than assists. There's certain things that game in, game out, we can just look at that certain stat and be like, oh, we won that game just based on that stat.
Yeah, I mentioned it. I forget after which loss, but I told you, like, I can almost – it's got to be every game that we lose, we have more turnovers than assists. In the games we win, we're moving the ball around, taking care of it, moving it around, and, you just look at it. We're, 17, 18 to 20 assists to 10 turnovers, and every game we lose, it feels like it's a stat line like it was Saturday night, 10 assists to 15 turnovers. Like, this team has got enough shooters and the style that Pope wants to play. Like, there shouldn't be games where they're just coming away with 10 assists on, especially on 78 points. The offense should be going through more of a rhythm to get than to just have 10 assists.
Yeah, and it really seemed like even when, Cats started out really strong in this game, started off 9-2 in that first initial run. Even then, like, the offense wasn't necessarily flowing. It felt like the offense was never in a flow. In my opinion, I think, we played poorly almost this entire game. Luckily, Texas is just one of the worst teams in the SEC and have been playing even worse without Arthur Kaluma. If Texas wasn't playing this bad, I don't think we're even in this game. And we're going to go through, obviously the box score to talk about players that kept us in this game. But were you surprised on how, I don't want to say how bad the Cats played, but just how bad they looked through 4 to 5 minute spells in games? Because there will be games where, first 4 minutes, we're up 9-2, we make substitutions, all of a sudden there goes a 10-0 run. And it seems like there has not been, at least since that Florida game, this offense has not been consistent for 40 minutes, which not many offenses are. But we can't continuously go through these 4 and 5 minute scoring droughts because it kills us in every game that we have one of those long droughts.
Well, and, not to, make an excuse or anything, because, again, this game was winnable. It was there. But I just think you see how important, Jackson Robinson and Lamont Butler are to this team. What you just alluded to, it was when we would go to the bench and make subs, right? Then we could go on the other team can go on a run and our offense looks completely out of sorts. I mean, you expect the offense to look stagnant at times when, your best scorer isn't playing and then a guy that can create your dribble drives not out there. Like, Ortega took 18 shots, and I know we were talking about how we wanted him to take less, but, like, in this game, who else is going to go out there and make plays? Like, nobody else can create for themselves, unfortunately. Like, somebody's got to. Now, if you have Lamont and Jackson Robinson out there and you got 3 guys that can, get past their man and create baskets, then, yeah, obviously I want Ortega's numbers to be down, but, like, just without Jackson Robinson, I would say almost even more in particular, like, it's just going to be hard for this team to create offense. And, scoring 78 in this kind of game, obviously, I think was enough to win, and they just didn't make honestly, it was just the key plays down the stretch. That's what everything boils down to me. Did they play great for the first 35 minutes? Probably not, but they easily played good enough to win with your backs against the wall, no healthy point guards, and then you just let it slip away.
Yeah, and slipping away is probably the best way to phrase it. I think they were 1 of 11 in their last shot attempts in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, one of them was that Ortega heave.
At the end of the game, really just a garbage time. And, we'll talk about Ortega here in a second, but just going down the box score like we normally do. We're going to talk about these lineups because I think the lineups have got to start to shift, especially if Andrew Carr is healthy. We're kind of getting a little bit of that John Calipari-esque reporting when it comes to this one on whether he's actually fully healthy or not. when he comes back, when he's obviously back now, but when he's actually at 100%, I think there does need to be a change coming up here soon. And, going off of that, Ansley Almore was pretty solid in this game. Only played 23 minutes, 3 of 5 from the floor, 11 points, and 3 rebounds, and an assist as well. I think Ansley's doing enough to provide, getting his minutes. The part that I don't like is how we're consistently running him out there as the 4. We do have 2 other big men that are on the bench, especially with the amount of guards that we have injured. I'd like to see Ansley running more of the 3. I mean, the guy's only 6'7", 6'8". It's not like he is the Kevin Durant mold where he's just 6'11" and a wing player. I'd love to see him back more in his traditional role because it seems like ever since that initial Andrew Carr injury, Ansley's been playing out of position ever since. And he's just not a guy that's physical enough. He's going to be able to get you enough rebounds to warrant playing the 4 and playing 23 minutes at it.
Yeah, I disagree. I just for Ansley, probably before we got into SEC play, I said I worried about him, just being quick enough and athletic enough to play in this conference, and I think Pope was able to hide that as well as he can by putting him at the 4. I think if you're putting him out on the wing, that slowness and no athleticism is going to show. I mean, it does show already, but I think even more under a microscope once you kind of put him out on the wing.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I agree. But we also have Kobe Brea and Travis Perry playing 35 and 27 minutes in this game, and Travis is probably the worst defender I think I've ever seen in college basketball history.
Well, you want to make a real defensive lineup. Why don't we just go with Travis Perry, Barea, Ansley, Carr, and BG? We'll run that one out there.
I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see it. The amount of lineups that we've tried, except for getting more than one big man on the floor, seems like we've tried everything except for that. I mean, let's talk about Amari Williams. I mean, he continues to have good game after good game. 18 points, 12 rebounds, 6 offensive rebounds in this game, 6 of 10 from the floor, 5 of 11 from the free throw line. Obviously, you'd like to see that be better, but like we've previously discussed, you're really not expecting too much from him on that. And, I mean, what about the step back 3? I mean, it was money.
Had to have it, and he shot another one that I thought might go in too.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, you alluded to it. I was over at Turfway watching it, and the whole sports bar was UK fans, and there was just a gasp and then a big yell. Obviously, he had to shoot it because the shot clock. But no, I thought Amari played well. I mean, there's still obviously some mistakes that frustrated me, especially late in the game, and we got torched on the offensive glass again. But overall, I thought he was your best player out there, and it's night in, night out. He kind of is. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than I thought he played well. 5 of 11 from the free throw lines, obviously not great. He missed some big ones down the stretch, had a couple chances to have some big and ones that he missed the free throw that kind of gave Texas the momentum back, and then we alluded to it, but that offensive rebound there with a minute and a half or whatever it was to go, that was the killer in the game, I felt like.
Yeah, and of course, he had his lapses in this game just like everybody did, but where is this team, especially with these injuries of late, without Amari Williams? We were talking about
really bad
before we started recording. I mean, he's 17th in just player efficiency with offensive and defensive ratings combined. He's 3rd in rebounding efficiency. I don't think, even still, people are starting to come a little bit more around on Amari Williams. I still don't think he's getting enough shine. And even in this game, it feels like this might be the most minutes he's played all season, and he played 26 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
With the injuries and if Andrew Carr is not completely healthy, and I know we sound like a broken record saying this literally after every single game, there's no reason to not. We're trying every other lineup. Why are you not trying to push Amari to 30 minutes, push him closer to that mark? Because you see the difference when he's on the floor versus when he isn't. Anytime any of those runs happen, it's usually that first substitution off of the half or even to start the game. I don't know what numbers that this coaching staff has that shows, Amari can't play over 25 minutes a game. But I would love if anybody on that staff would send them over to me so I can see what they're seeing.
Yeah, I agree. We say it week in and week out. Like
Every pod.
he's got to play 30 plus minutes. I mean, the team is just different when he's out there. I mean, he was the best player on the floor Saturday. To your point, where would this team be without him? They would be very bad, especially without everybody else being injured. But you gotta give him more of a run, and it's not just that he only plays 26 minutes. He doesn't play a lot consecutively, right? Like he's getting 4 to 5 minute stretches. Like imagine if he could really kind of settle into a game and play the majority of a first half, or 12 minutes, or like there's got to be a longer leash. Like I would love to see him play the first 12 to 15 minutes of a game, and then you sit him, and you know I just you got to get his minutes up. There's a huge drop off when he's not in the game. We'll get to Brandon Garrison later, but like he continues to just be the most frustrating player I can watch. He gives you essentially nothing. I don't know how you can look at that and be like, yeah, we want to take some of Amari's minutes and continue to give them to Garrison.
Yeah, and with that being said, I mean, Andrew Carr fouled out in this game, and Amari Williams
Yeah.
still only had 26 minutes. Amari only had 2 fouls. I genuinely think Amari has been a lot better so far or throughout the later part of the season at avoiding fouls. He's kept himself out of foul trouble for the most part. Outside of that Tennessee game, he kind of caught himself in a little bit there. But I can't wrap my brain around him not playing. Like I think this 26 and a half minutes that he got against Texas is like the floor, especially with the
I
three
agree.
injuries that you have. Brandon Garrison's not playing well when he is in. Andrew Carr is either not all the way healthy or he's just the first half of Duke and not the second half Andrew Carr that we saw. And, obviously we're going to talk about Otega Owe here. He's starting to give you more and more as the season goes on. But I don't think this team is going to be a team that goes anywhere deep in March or even in the SEC tournament if Otega Owe is that, first guy that you got to rely on to score. Shot 18 shots in this game, 1 of 5 from 3, 3 of 5 from the line. Gave you 20 points and 5 rebounds and 2 steals. It was a good game from Otega. Not taking anything away from him. It's just, when you see that stat line in this game, you just knew that it's just not going to be Kentucky's night.
Yeah, I agree. Like this game felt different. In part, obviously, because there is no Lamont and no Jackson. So as I mentioned, like you know, the perfect role for Otega was that Tennessee game Tuesday night when Lamont was out there and Jackson was, or well, Jackson didn't even play, but just that 10 to 11 shots. But like in this one, also a lot of them were forced just at the end of the shot clock. Like we couldn't get anything going. It felt like in rhythm. So I mean, when there's 8 seconds left on the shot clock, our best play at that point might just be Otega, put your head down and try to get to the rim. Like, you know, I just don't know what else. Like, if Kobe Brea, is going 0 of 4 from the 3, 0 of 6 from the field, not getting open, Travis Perry's has a hard time separating. He needs someone to essentially help off of him, and then he can get an open look. Like, the offense just it wasn't there, obviously, on Saturday, and part of that is to be expected. But I thought Ortega played fine. Again, probably not the most efficient game in the world, but I just don't know what else you really expected out of your offense on Saturday.
The worst part about the team and the roster that we have at the moment, there's 4 guys that are getting 15 plus minutes right now that can't create their own shot in the slightest bit of way. Ansley Almanor played 23 minutes, Kobe Brea 35 minutes, Travis Perry 28 minutes, and Trent Noah 20 minutes. I mean, those are all guys who can't create their own shot, and we're unfortunately leaning on those guys to create their own shot and create some offense when most of them are, schemed open shots that you need to get, especially Travis Perry right now. I thought I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit. I didn't think Travis Perry played well in this game. 2 of 8 from the field. At no point in this year do I want to see Travis Perry shooting 8 times in another game. I think that was a reason in this loss. 6 points, 2 rebounds, 3 turnovers, 3 assists. I get why he started. I know you need that traditional point guard. But do you feel any more confident Travis Perry bringing the ball up as you do Otega Owe or even Amari Williams in these situations? Because I know I don't. I
Yeah.
genuinely probably feel worse So at that point, I don't know why having that theoretical point guard start the game and play 28 minutes makes sense in a game like this.
I mean, to be honest, I did until maybe the last 4 minutes of the game Saturday. That obviously shifted how I was thinking on it a little bit. But let me preference it. Like when I say Travis Perry played well, I thought he played well for kind of what you were asking him to do, right? Like there was never a moment in this season if you told me back in December, hey, there's going to be an SEC game where Travis Perry plays 27 minutes, I'm like, what the hell went wrong, right? And to an extent, a lot of stuff's gone wrong, especially with injuries. But so I thought he played well given the circumstances. He's not some insane freshman. He's a guy, beginning of the year, we thought, he might be able to contribute for a handful of minutes here and there each game. And for the most part, he's a guy that we're going to be thinking about for next year and even the year after. So for him to kind of be thrown into this role, playing 27 minutes because you're down all your point guards, I thought he gave you what you kind of expect in an SEC game on the road.
One of my bigger problems is more the fact that he was just in the position to play 28 minutes.
Yeah.
I know you got to have minutes for
Fair.
those guys to go to, but if you're not getting the offensive production, obviously Colin Chandler is not giving you any offensive production, but if you need stops at least, Trey Johnston had 32 points in this game. Trem and Mark had 26. At some point, if he's going to be a liability on the defensive and offensive end, at least get Colin out there, at least give him a couple more spells. Keep Amari fresh the entire game. But for some reason, the freshman who's not used to having his legs playing this many games this late in the season is when you're going to give him his first 28 minutes. I really didn't think. I know Pope's got his hands full with everything that's going on. He's down his top 3 point guards, and he's got a limited, 4-man who was your starter at the beginning of the season. I get his hands are kind of tied, but I'm just not liking the answers that he's coming up to on these tests that he's been given. Unfortunately for him, the guy that, kind of won us the game and was able to create that offense last week wasn't able to. Kobe Bryant, like you mentioned, 0 for 6, 0 for 4 from the 3, 4 for 4 from the line, 4 rebounds. I actually had 3 steals. I thought he actually played pretty solid defensively in this game. But we've always said if Kobe's going to play, he's got to hit threes. And if he's going 0 for 4, it's just we're not going to have a good night from the field.
Yeah, he led you in minutes, and he was 0 of 6 from the floor. That's not a recipe for winning basketball. And as crazy as it is, I know we're not the first people to make this point, but it really just boils down to it's almost as simple as Kentucky wins or lose whether he shoots okay or not.
Yeah.
If he goes out and makes 4 or 5 threes, we're probably beating whoever we're playing when he goes out and he's 0 for 4 from behind the arc and can't buy a bucket. And honestly, a lot of times on Saturday he didn't look like he wanted to shoot. I get it, you don't make your first few, but I don't care if he's 0 for 10. Keep shooting it, especially in a game like this where you're down Jackson Robinson and you don't have a ton of offense out there. I'm fine with just letting it fly, but I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. To your point, I thought he played okay defensively. He didn't get, completely torched out there, but at the end of the day, he's not on the floor to play defense. He's on the floor to hit some shots, and the ones he did take, he obviously didn't make, but I felt like he didn't look for a shot enough.
Yeah, and that's something we've mentioned almost every pod the entire season is him not looking for a shot enough. And unfortunately, with the role that he's kind of thrusted into now, we can't really have him coming off the ball as much as we would like to. And even before then, we haven't really seen him set up for screens and stuff like that off the ball outside of those little, double pick screens that we have up at the top of the key. I just don't know what they have to do to get Kobe going. But like you mentioned, it seems like if you want to just look at the box score and look at the losses that we have, looks like almost every loss we have, I bet you Kobe hasn't made more than 1 or 2 threes in those games. Obviously, it sounds a little simple when you break it down like that. Obviously, a lot of other factors go into the game, but Kobe is a big piece. We mentioned him a lot already in this podcast. Andrew Carr fouled out in this game, only played 16 minutes, 6 points, 2 of 5 from the floor, only 1 rebound in 16 minutes for your big man, and 2 turnovers. I don't know if he's just not all the way healthy and we're just getting the run around about his health, but if this is healthy Andrew Carr, we're getting the first half against Duke where he's virtually unplayable, and yet Amari Williams is still only getting 26 minutes a game.
Yeah, I feel like a broken record when it comes to Andrew Carr because I just keep saying I don't think we can really judge him because I don't think he's healthy. I think that back, I mentioned it last time. When your back hurts, everything hurts. It affects every asset of your game. I mean, Andrew Carr was playing over 20 plus minutes every game when he was fully healthy. Like, I know this one he was in some foul trouble, but even the handful leading up to this, he hasn't cracked 20 minutes yet. He hasn't started. I can't believe that he's fully healthy if he's not in the starting rotation and being the main four that you lean on. So I'm still in the boat that I don't know. Maybe Pope's not telling us 100% the truth, but I don't see him being healthy. He does not look like the same player he was in the non-conference.
I mean, it definitely doesn't look like the same player at all. Somebody who else, doesn't look like the same player they were at the beginning of the season. Trent Noah. I mean, he's made leaps and bounds throughout the season,
Looks
getting
good.
obviously more minutes and more shine. Played 21 minutes in this game, and the only guy who finished with a positive plus minus in this game. He had 7 points, 6 rebounds from him, which is really the part that I'm growing to love more and more about him because he's one of the only guys that it seems like is going to put his nose in there and try and fight for an extra rebound, get a body on somebody outside of Amari Williams. It's great to see the growth from Trent Noah in this game and just in the season in general. I wish he wasn't having to play 22 minutes a game. I wish he was giving us 10 or 12, almost stealing more of Ansley's minutes away from him with how he's playing. But unfortunately, right now we're forced to play him 20 minutes, and you're kind of seeing some of that lax on the defensive side of the ball is where it's really showing up.
Yeah, I mean he's not gonna be a lockdown defender. I think we've expected that. I mean I feel like we say it with every person on this team, but to your point, the guy hustles his butt off when he's out there. He's one of the few guys that's the first one to the floor on this team. I mean, he hit that huge three there in the second half. That was a deep one, and he pulled it with zero hesitation pretty early in the shot clock and knocked it down. I love his confidence. He had all of Turfway going crazy when he banged that one in. There was a lot of Mountain Mamba chants going on. But yeah, probably outside of Amari and Ortega, he was the guy I thought played the best. I thought he kind of did everything you could kind of ask out of him at this stage and played really well.
Yeah, and I've got just a quick question for you. Trent Noah, you think that's Tom's best take of the season?
It's got to be. I mean, how many other takes has he even had? So we'll start with that. But yeah, I mean, dude, if you told me, Trent Noah was going to be our best freshman on this team, I would have called you insane. I mean,
Yeah.
we all thought obviously it was going to be Colin Chandler, and then I thought Travis Perry just because of shooting would be a lot, play more than Noah. I didn't see Noah even cracking the rotation at any point other than like mop up minutes. So that's by far Tom's best take.
Yeah, I mean, it's not saying much. Obviously, the kid doesn't have to keep the face. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say his name, and I'll let you go ahead and talk about him. Brandon Garrison, the floor is yours.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if there's been a UK player in the last, and I'm not kidding, in the last 10 years that's frustrated me more than Brandon Garrison. We talk about it every game. He's a guy with his athleticism, his size, he should be a guy that should be a borderline first round pick. He's got all the tools. It doesn't click on the floor, and I don't know why. I mean, before the season, ESPN had him ranked 40th in the mock draft as the backup big man. He's unplayable. He's the number one guy that's unplayable right now. Cam, I kid you not. I was about ready to break everything in front of me on Saturday when in the second half of a one-possession game with 15 seconds on the shot clock, he decides to shoot a turnaround jumper after giving up an offensive rebound that led to a bucket right before that, and he comes down, gets the ball in the post, and shoots a turnaround jumper and missed it by 15 feet. Luckily, Turfway at that point was serving glasses in plastic cups because something was about to get broke. It was I can't even continue to say it. I don't want to, get personal. It's like 4 rebounds. It's another game in 13 minutes. He has 6 points, 4 rebounds. You look at it on the stats, you're like, it's not bad. But when you watch him and you watch his effort on the defensive end, every rebound he grabs, it falls in his lap. The
Yeah.
guy's never going up and making a play. He doesn't box out. He gets absolutely torched on defense, especially in a pick and roll. It's There's no reason for him to really be playing right now. Again, his minutes should be under 10 a game. It should be just when you have to sit Amari for a little bit. And then if Andrew Carr gets healthy, I think you throw him back out at the 5 when Amari's tired. And that should be it.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I've kind of had these BG takes since the beginning of the season, and the frustrating part is that like you see the athleticism, you see his ability to shoot the ball, you see all the things
Go.
that you want from a 6'10" McDonald's All American in his second year, but then just none of it registers once he's on the floor and you need it. He refuses to get a body on somebody, like you mentioned. If he is getting a rebound, it's something that just happens to be a kick in his way.
Yep.
And I think you see that on the volatility of his rebounds game in and game out. He'll go from 6 rebounds to 1 rebound, 2 rebounds. I mean, you can never expect him to have consistent game in, game out rebounding numbers. Like even in this game, 4 rebounds in 13 minutes is probably one of his better ones. But like you mentioned, none of them are like those Trent Noah rebounds where he has to go in and get it and fight a guy off for him. Brandon Garrison right now, it's so hard because you have so many guys out that you have to give somebody minutes. Unfortunately, Pope doesn't want to give those minutes to Amari for whatever reason, and Carr's still not fully healthy. So he's got to play, but man, it's so frustrating watching him play.
It is. And don't get me wrong, Brandon Garrison's not the worst basketball player I've ever seen, but part of what's so frustrating about him is the tools are there for him to be so much better. He's a guy, I bet if he entered the draft at the end of the year, I'm not saying he would get drafted, but when he would go through the workouts, teams would really like him. He's got all the measurables, and then for him to just, when I was talking about Travis Perry, I'm he just kind of gives you what he can at the end of the day. E.g., if he gave you what he could, this guy could be a first round pick, and it's just I don't know where the disconnect comes from because there are games where he's super engaged and he's getting people fired up, but it's just very few and far between. It feels like it's 1 out of every 5 games. So 20% of the time he's out there, he's really kind of making a difference and an impact. And he's a guy that it should be 95% of the time he's on the floor. You're not asking him to play 30 plus minutes. It's not like it's a tiredness or anything like that. It should be a lot more than what we get from him, and that's what's so frustrating about it.
I mean, even if you scrap this year, you're planning on this guy being, a key role in the team next year.
Yeah, I don't feel confident in that.
There's just been no development from him from game 1 to game 25.
Yep.
And that's where I'm growing, the most anxious about because you've seen Ortega grow. You've seen Amari get better. You've seen Trent Noah take leaps and bounds. Even Travis Perry in the limited minutes he's getting. Ainsley Almanor has gotten better in his role. Seems
Jackson
like
Robinson,
everybody has gotten better outside of injury-riddled guys like Kerr, Andrew, and Lamont. Seems like everybody's taken a step forward except for Brandon Garrison, and that's where I'm really anxious about it. Obviously, we got a lot of games and, obviously big games before we look forward to next season. Wanted to touch on that with BG for a little bit. Speaking of a guy, you are thinking about a lot for next season, Colin Chandler only played 4 minutes in this game. No points, turnover, and a steal. 0 for 1 from the field. I mean, I don't really know what to say about Colin. He gives you a solid effort on the defensive side of the ball. He can't be a ball handler right now, and right now he has no offensive game. So you really have to pick and choose your battles of when you play him. I actually thought this was a game in which you probably should have played him, try to get him on Trey Johnson, maybe slow that roll a little bit that he had, especially later in the second half. Obviously, Pope didn't see it the same. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Colin Chandler. Obviously, he only played 4 minutes in this one.
Yeah, none major. This offense, we know, they're gonna have to score, right? And even putting Chandler out there, I don't know how much it really makes a difference because you're still, even if you play him with Amari, you still got 3 guys that really aren't defending at a high level. So it's just tough. Colin Chandler is a guy I am excited about. If he can develop even just to be an average, offensive threat and, a guy that when he's wide open can knock down a shot, I think he can have a very productive career here. It's just at this point, it's obviously not happening. But who knows? There might be a game coming up down the stretch where he goes back and plays 17 minutes, and we're coming on here saying it was the Colin Chandler game again. So, I mean, I'm not going to write anybody off, I think, for a particular game. But, yeah, I didn't have any super strong thoughts on him as when it came to Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think you and I both agree lineups and, substitution patterns are probably the biggest issue of the team at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much playing Colin Chandler is going to help that. But obviously, the Cats have a big last final 6 games of the season 17-8, fell to 17 in the AP top 25. And right now, they're ninth in the SEC standings, which would leave them playing Wednesday at noon in Nashville for the SEC tournament. Just thoughts in general of the season so far and what you're looking forward to in the next 6 games. We'll take a dive into the next 6 games, give a little bit of a prediction on what you think we need to do in the next 6 to feel confident going into tournament time.
Honestly, just be healthy for me. Regardless of the record, we're a team that's going to make the tournament. So my number one goal is to have a healthy Lamont Butler and Jackson Robinson. You listen to Pope. He sounds more optimistic, with Lamont coming back here soon.
Yeah.
I mean, he was talking about Jackson's not doing anything with his right hand right now. He said he's been shooting left-handed in practice, just kind of going through it. But like that's concerning. Like, so for me, obviously get healthy. I think I said, if both guys were back, if you missed them for the next 4 games, I wanted to go 2-2. That's obviously, still on the table with Andy at home on Wednesday, and then at Oklahoma, so you got to find a way to win those. But yeah, I mean, if you tell me even if you're going to be the 9 seed in the SEC tourney on playing on Wednesday, but part of that is you have to hold out Jackson Robinson and Lamont Butler, but they're ready to go by then I'm good, and sign me up.
Yeah, and Jackson, I know I heard Pope say he was going to get his third opinion on that wrist. Obviously, you only go to get second and third opinions when you don't like the first and second. So
Yeah,
obviously, they're
it's
not
scary.
very good news there.
Yeah, I mean, like without him going into March, I feel no confidence. If him and Lamont are there, I still feel like this team can make a run. I'm not saying they will, but I mean, without Jackson Robinson, I don't see this team's ceiling being very high.
My thing is, I think we just need this team to all play together again because it feels like it's
Sure.
been forever since we've had this whole lineup. And I'm really afraid of, like how you mentioned, just letting this team get back and ready for March. And then that first game is where they're all back together, nothing's gelling. That's one of
Yeah.
my big worries. And obviously, you
Sure.
don't want to push a guy and get these guys coming back too soon. But I do feel like you need to get, if you can, obviously injuries are neither one of us know the extent of these guys. But you got to get these guys back for at least a regular season game or 2 if you can. That way you can get a little camaraderie, a little, gelling before the tournament goes off. Because I don't think you want to be going into March Madness losing, losing 4 of your last 6 games, first round bounce in the SEC tournament. I don't think that builds confidence for anybody. Obviously, playing on a lot of what ifs and if and ands were candy and nuts, that
Yeah.
whole saying. But just what are you thinking? Obviously, pick the last final 6 games that we have. We play Vanderbilt, Alabama, Oklahoma, Auburn, and LSU in Missouri. We're going to be 3 of those are ranked teams.
Yep.
You got 1, 3, and 15 as the AP poll stands now. Of those 6, saying Lamont and Jackson are not healthy, what do you need for this team to go in that last 6 games to feel good about them going into the tournament?
I think I'm gonna pick probably the pretty chalk pick. I think a lot of people would say this, but I think they'll go 3-3, and I would be pretty happy with that. And they'll probably go 3-3 by, losing to Oklahoma or even LSU or something crazy, but then they'll, either win at Missouri or find a way to upset Auburn at home. So like, I think they'll go 3-3, and they'll just be pretty much the same team we've seen all year. I mean, one positive for this team, like let's be real, if you're looking at it, and you said before it was like we beat a top ranked team and then lose to the team, quote unquote we should beat. This is the way you rather do it. Like if you're gonna split these games, you rather get the top. Right? Yeah. Well, to get to the tourney, you rather beat the the top team. I mean, we got the most quad one wins in basketball, so I'm still hopeful for this team, but that's obviously very contingent on Lamont Butler and Jackson Robinson's health.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to have the same enthusiasm as you. I think they're probably going to go 2-4 in
That's a
this
very real
last.
possibility.
I mean, they just played Texas, who had a worse record than Oklahoma. You're going to be playing Oklahoma on the road as
Yep.
well. Already lost to Vanderbilt, and that was at pretty much full strength with Lamont and Jackson. Bama, you already lost to them as well. Auburn, I mean, you just saw how well they played against Alabama. But I also wouldn't be surprised if this team goes 3-3 in this stretch, beats Bama, Auburn, and Missouri, and loses to LSU, Oklahoma, and Vandy. So I don't know what this team's going to do going forward. I probably should pick them to lose every game. It seems like that's when they win. But I don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, and I do want to say one thing. I know, you mentioned there's no moral victories, and I agree. Like, this was a game that you should have won. But to act like the sky is falling when your 3 point guards are out, obviously they should have. The way this game played out, they should have won. But like, they were a 4.5 point underdog. Like, this wasn't a game that even on paper we were supposed to just run in there and win convincingly. So there's still, like I said, I still think there's a lot of upside for this team. But for me, it all is just contingent on those guards. If they're ready to go, I feel confident that we can beat anybody in the country as we've seen so far this year. But who knows? We could also be playing a 12 seed on Thursday in the NCAA tournament, and you could be sweating it and even lose it. So I don't know what to make of it.
Well, good news is at least we will have Vandy in Rupp Arena. Obviously, we've played better at home for most of the season. What are you thinking prediction-wise? MVP pick for the Cats?
Yeah, the reverse jinx didn't work on Saturday, so I'll hop off that train and I'll pick the Cats. I think the game's honestly going to be a little similar to the one in Nashville. More so like in the second half. I mean, Kentucky played really well in the second half at Nashville outside of, again, just kind of the last few minutes they kind of let it slip away again. But I'll say Kentucky 77 to 71.
Who's your MVP pick for that game?
Give me, every time I feel like I always say it after he goes 0 for 4 from behind the arc, so I'll take Kobe to have a bounce back game and make 4 or 5 threes.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky lost to Vanderbilt by 5 points, and I was with them scoring 27 points in the first half.
I mean, we were down 16 at halftime or 14 at halftime? Like,
at some point we were down 14 or 16 in that game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for me, that was this team at full strength. I just don't see this team winning this game against Vanderbilt. And usually, anytime I say that, last 2 times I've said it, were both of the Tennessee games. They won both of them. So I'm hoping, your reverse jinx didn't work last week. I'm hoping my reverse jinx does work this week. If I got to pick an MVP for this game, let me just go with Ainsley Almanor. I think, let him get hot. Anywhere from 13 points in this game, hit 3 threes, knock down some clutch free throws. Obviously, 13 points doesn't sound like a lot for an MVP effort.
Yeah, no.
But I think when you get something like that from a guy who you don't expect to score, double digits every game, I think that'll be enough to get Kentucky over the edge if they were to win. But I'm going to take Vanderbilt in this game. I'm going to say 82 to 76. Vanderbilt gets it done in Rupp.
One thing about Vandy, though, like, they haven't been very good on the road. I know they were they were up 15 in the second half against Tennessee, and blew it. But like, if you just look at them, I mean, they lost by 30 at Oklahoma. Like, their one SEC road win was against LSU in a pretty close game. Like, so part of it is, Kentucky obviously plays better at home. Vandy plays a lot worse on the road.
I don't know about you, but at least for me, it does feel like at least a little bit of this hype has died down around this Kentucky team. The fan base is kind of not necessarily soured on the team, but the same energy and enthusiasm isn't necessarily around them. And obviously, a lot of that has to be said with how we've went 6-6 on our last 12 games. It's kind of hard to have that, unrational Kentucky enthusiasm and positivity that we normally have when you've seen 500 basketball of the last 12.
Yeah, I think the injuries obviously play a huge part in that. Like, if we were fully healthy, I don't think our record would be 6-6. Now, how much better, I don't know. It might only be a game or two difference, but like, also for me, like, it's hard to get excited about March if when Jackson Robinson's getting a third opinion on his hand.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you don't have him, again, I don't think this team's ceiling's very high, and to deal with a shooting hand and wrist hand whatever it is injury this late in the season is not ideal, and for your best scorer, it's definitely tempers expectations.
Yeah, it's very concerning, and it feels like we keep getting concerning news
Yeah.
on guys. Hopefully, we had an extra day of rest this week. Games on Wednesday at 7 on SEC Network. Hopefully, the guys are a little extra rested. Obviously, we don't expect to see Lamont and/or Jackson in this game. I don't know if we're expecting to see any lineup changes, seeing any sort of substitution changes. I guess we'll see that at 7 p.m. Wednesday on SEC Network. Cats and the Commodores. Jacob, you got any final thoughts?
Nope, that's it. Let's go out and beat Vandy and try to get it back on track.
All right, guys, that is all from the Cats Talk podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you get your Kentucky Wildcats news. We are there. With that being said, Kentucky needs a win. Let's get back in the winning column. Get over 500 in SEC play. Go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.